Hey, what's going on, everyone? Axel here, back for another video. In this one, I'm going to talk about a topic that I hear a lot between PC gamers and console gamers, which is why buy a console? Are consoles worth buying today? Because as we've seen from Microsoft and Sony, we've seen this trend where they've kind of nudged themselves further and further towards PCs. And it's kind of getting to the point where you think, why would I get this? Why wouldn't I just play on a PC? And I want to tell you why I, in particular, do play on console mostly. I have an Xbox One, which I bought this year, and I've enjoyed it a lot. But let me talk about the main reason why I think you should still be gaming on console, even though PC is becoming more and more popular, and even though the PS4 and Xbox One are becoming more and more like PCs. For me, it comes down to ownership of games. Me as a gamer, I like to own my games. A service like Steam on PC those are game rentals. You don't actually own it. Say you buy a copy of, Far Cry, the newest Far Cry, for like $10 or whatever, because it's on a Steam sale. Do you get the game? Do you get to play it? Yeah, of course you get to play it, but do you own the game? No, you don't. The reason why games like Steam are so low in price, why they can sell their stuff for so low, is because all they're doing is basically selling you rights to access a digital file. You aren't actually owning the game. It's more like Netflix than it is actually buying a game, like Netflix, where you have access to content but you don't actually own the content. It's the same with Steam and gaming. You have access to the games, but you don't actually own them. If Steam goes out of business tomorrow, you lose all your games. If Steam has problems like they did last month and Steam gets shut down for a while, you can't play your games. If you decide you don't like the game anymore, you don't actually own it, so you can't resell it. And for that reason, that's why I've been sticking to consoles, even though they're becoming more and more DLC heavy, unfortunately, with the Xbox One and PS4, and also the Wii U. There is some amount of DLC, not to the extent that Sony and Microsoft push it, but Nintendo is pushing it somewhat. Even though that exists, you still own a game. You still have value when you buy a disc. Even though you can go on your local game store like I did recently, and I bought a copy of Deus Ex Mankind Divided for the Xbox One, even though that has DLC that's coming with it, even though the value of buying a physical disc has decreased because you don't actually need it. All it is installs. Use it for installation purposes on your game system, but you don't actually get any. You don't actually have a reason to put it in your console other than copyright protection, which I don't know if you all know this, but if you're a PS4 gamer or an Xbox One gamer, you technically don't actually need the disc anymore to play your game after you install it. It's just the way Sony and Microsoft have designed their consoles is they sort of use the CD as a barrier, kind of an unlock key, so that it gives you permission to play the game, but you technically don't need the game. When the game's installed on the hard drive, all the game's data is transferred off the disk, so you don't actually need it. But even though we've seen this trend of gaming going more and more digital from consoles, we're seeing more higher percentages of games not be on the disc or not be ready at launch. Even though that is taking place, you still have some sort of game ownership. I can still sell copies of my Xbox One games and get some of my money back and actually have value for that. Or maybe I want to go to a friend's house and bring my copy of Deus Ex Mankind Divided and play it in their Xbox One. I can still do that. That's something you don't get with PC gaming. And if we see this trend of these games, gaming culture go all digital, like that might happen with PS4, Xbox One, I wouldn't be surprised if in another generation or two, maybe 5 to 7 to 8 years down the line, I wouldn't be surprised if those consoles are all digital and they slowly stop offering physical alternatives. If that happens, I don't know how much longer I will game. I probably will game some. I just won't be willing to fork out as much money, considering I'm not actually owning the game. Say something like Steam, it better be cheap because I don't actually own the game. Now let's talk about Nintendo a little bit and the Nintendo Switch, because I think they might be onto something with their game, with their gaming console, and the Nintendo Switch is being revealed tonight actually, and I'll be sure to upload a video when I get the time, giving my reaction to the Nintendo Switch premiere. But the Nintendo Switch might be onto something, because as far as we know, the Nintendo Switch is not actually going the route that Sony and Microsoft are in terms of installation. It's going to run off cartridges, kind of like SD cards, and it's going to give you that plug and play experience. It's going to actually give you a whole game on the disc. Hopefully, Nintendo has been venturing slowly into DLC, but on the Wii U, for the most part, their games were released complete on disc. But we'll see if that actually appeals to gamers, because I've seen a trend slowly growing in the gaming industry where people are kind of getting sick of people getting really sick of the DLC. They're getting sick of stuff not being completed on disc, or they're getting sick of install times. So it's really interesting to see if the Nintendo Switch will actually turn around this trend, this DLC trend, this trend of pushing everyone's towards PC. So guys, please comment below and let me know what you think about this topic. If you're someone who's embracing PC gaming, or if you're someone who prefers to go my route, which is console gaming. Do you prefer the cheap rental style of purchasing your games or getting access to your games, or do you actually prefer the more console style of ownership of games? And do you kind of want to see ownership of games come back, and do you want to see the gaming industry not continue to venture so far into this DLC rental kind of service area that we seem to be heading with the Xbox One and the PS4 and Steam? So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe so you can hear my content in the future, and throw me a like if you wouldn't mind. That's all for today. You all have a good one.